So the first thing you need to do is loosen the wheel nuts while the car is on the ground. Remove the cotter pin from the outer tie rod. Then we have to remove the castle nut. The more recent the cars are, the better they are engineered, or so it seems. A very good example is this. You have like 5 degrees to move your pliers to remove this inner tie rod. Seems like they are learning to do bad things. So you will suffer a bit in this process. After you manage to remove the inner tie rod and the outer tie rod assembly, make a note of the number of threads that you can see on the inner tie rod. And then you remove the inner tie rod, you count the threads, the number of turns it takes for you to remove the inner tie rod, so that you can approximately align the steering so that you can take the car to the nearest tire shop to perform a wheel alignment. So after you remove the inner tie rod, we have to remove the remainders of the thread lock that has been inserted there when they put it at the factory. Blast some compressed air into that hole to remove any debris that may have accumulated on the threads. Alright, now I am ready to insert the new inner tie rod. The important thing here is to have a perfectly clean thread to ensure a perfectly grease-free surface, because we will be then applying a thread locker paste to the threads, because this is necessary due to the vibration to which the tie rod is subject to in the car. Clean the thread thoroughly using a rag. Then apply a bit of brake cleaner to degrease the surface. Let this dry. Now we have to apply a bit of thread lock to the thread in the inner tie rod. Don't need to apply a lot, just on one side. Now, after you have coated the inner tie rod thread with thread lock, it's time to insert it into place. In some cases you will have to use one of these staking rings to hold the inner tie rod. If your steering column has two notches, one opposite to each other, you will have to put one of these rings in there, and then after tightening the tie rod, you will have to hammer on this surface here. Forget to wrap around the bolt shaped pattern on the tie rod. That will stake the tie rod and prevent it from spinning. In this case, since this steering column does not use this kind of rings, at least mine did not have any, nor there are any notches on my steering column, I won't be using these rings. To prevent the new thread from seizing, like happened with this one that only came out with an angle grinder, I will be coating the threads with a bit of anti-seize compound to make it easier for the people at the wheel alignment shop to work on my car and align the wheels. Insert the boot with the ring in there, then insert the outer ring here, don't tighten it yet. Then it's time to insert the ring. Look at your older tie rod, or what remains of it, as I cut mine in half with an angle grinder because this nut was seized, and count the threads on the outer part, which will be like this. It was like this, and in the inner part, and position your nut in the same position. After you replace the tie rods, the boots will have to be secured with rings. To do this, you will use this type of deformable rings. That have to be crushed with this type of pliers. Seems like a wire cutter pliers. Don't forget to stake the cotter pin if you have one. If you have a castle nut, stake the cotter pin that comes in the package for the outer tie rod, and then tighten up the nut for between the inner and the outer tie rod. There isn't a torque spec for this, so we just tighten this as much as you can. The anti-seize compound will take care of not making this seize. So place the two spanners and then hold this. This does not, you do not apply a torsion force to this part. The nut does all the tightening job. So you have to hold this in the same position and then tighten the nut. As hard as you can. Now, after the repair, I can drive with a straight wheel, with a straight steering wheel. Actually, I'm now with a twisted steering wheel because I'm doing a curve. But you see, in the straights, now my wheel is straight, and before the repair, the wheel was slightly tilted towards the left. That's because due to those nuts on the outer tie rods being seized, since they were seized, they were unable to align the wheel properly. So I had a twisted steering wheel. As always, if you liked the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel for more repair videos on my cars. Now let's return to driving.